Hello, and welcome to Frameworks John Carpenter's The Podcast. We are starting our new series on the master of horror, John Carpenter, and we're beginning with his 1974 debut film, Dark Star. With me, as always, is John Bernard.
Hey, hello. How are you today?
I'm good.
Yeah.
And we also have returning guest, Mr. Thor Klippert.
Happy to be here.
Tori, you jumped on this one right away when we were first getting volunteers for Carpenters. I didn't think that this was much loved in his filmography, but you wanted to stand up for it, as I understand. So stand up. Explain to me what's laudable about this film.
Well, it's not much loved by John Carpenter. I think most filmmakers don't care much for their first films, and this is a particularly edge of the seat kind of a first film because it started out as his senior thesis at USC. It was originally a 40-minute short, and then as they went along, they got more confident about turning it into a feature. And much later on, Dan O'Bannon joked that it had gone from the highest quality student feature to the lowest quality feature film.
I can see that, man. Man, do I agree with Dan O'Bannon on that.
Yeah. But it occurs to me that there's two types of debut features that auteurs dislike for different reasons. So going off the guys we've done previously, you've got like Fincher's got Alien 3, right? And Cameron's got Piranha 2. And those movies that they sort of disown because they had no ownership over it. And they did what they could, but it was a for hire job, but they were just trying to get in the door and kind of get kicked around by the studio or the producer or whoever it might be. And then the other version is like Dark Star is more like Christopher Nolan's Following, where it's, a student film that essentially got a release, either theatrical or home video release as a feature eventually, and they don't like those as much just because they feel that's too nascent. It's a bit of
a hybrid there. I think the difference here is that guys like Cameron and Fincher had worked in studio films before they actually got to a point of creative control, and in this case, Carpenter's starting out. He's actually won an Oscar. People don't know this, that he'd worked on a short film that won an Oscar, and he felt that he didn't get proper credit for that, and that motivated him to be a director and get into the Directors Guild, et cetera, et cetera. And so expanding his student film into something that could become a feature film and get him a director's credit was his end game.
And then finally get him that feature film Oscar, which, citation needed.
Right.
Well, should have happened.
He must have at least been nominated for score a couple of times by now, right?
That's a good question. I'm not sure.
I don't think they ever gave it to him. Not once, I don't think.
That feels like a crime.
It is, of course. Yeah.
But I do think Dark Star is more of a collaborative effort than I think he would later be comfortable with. It's as much Dan O'Bannon's movie as it is John Carpenter's.
Yeah, this seems like the Dan O'Bannon origin story more than the John Carpenter one. I mean, not that, Dan O'Bannon does not have the storied career of John Carpenter, but he has, he's definitely left his print on Hollywood and movies just by writing Alien, frankly. Right. And this is very much a dry run. Yeah, exactly. But this is a dry run for Alien in a lot of ways. Yeah. A lot of the same ideas. And so it feels like him coming up with, like the primordial soup that Dan O'Bannon came from rather than Carpenter,
Yeah, because Carpenter wanted to make a sci-fi film probably, the 1970 is when this project starts. And he was probably inspired by 2001 more than anything. And you see an influence of 2001 here with the talking computer and with the style and design of the visual effects. I think the comedy is coming from O'Bannon.
Yeah. I feel like Carpenter would be, open to Carpenter does some very good comedy occasionally in his career. Yeah. Sometimes he makes very funny movies. Yeah. And I don't know. I feel like the voice here, the comedic voice I don't know. They're all 70s college burnout stoner guys. So
the dynamic of people in a confined environment getting on each other's nerves is here from the beginning, and that goes on throughout Carpenter.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, well, he and O'Bannon will go on and do two of the greatest science fiction and greatest horror movies ever made, respectively, separately with that same premise, basically.
Right.
But between The Thing and Alien, you know,
Yeah.
they both go on to polish this quite a bit.
Yeah.
But this movie is hurt, I think, from not knowing if it's really a scary movie or a sort of comedy, or how much 2001 does it have in its DNA. It never really settles on, is it Office Space in space?
Well, this is
like
I don't think this is the first movie to posit blue collar astronauts. There may have been some European films that did this, but I'm thinking of some East German pictures. But it's definitely the first, I think, American film to have people who really hate being in a spaceship doing their job and just bowling through it. And of course, that becomes a major element of Alien as well.
Is it the first sci-fi movie to posit space travel as being boring?
Yeah. Yeah.
It certainly seems boring. Seems like a hell, essentially in this. I mean, when they all die at the end, it kind of feels like a mercy.
We'll get to that.
And I mean, you know what it feels like to me? I was like, yes, 2001 is here, Alien is here, but the things I was most reminded of this would be like, it's like a combination of Paul Schrader's Blue Collar and Douglas Adams' Hitchhiker's Guide to the Universe.
I can see that.
It's it's about the unremitting hell of manual labor and work, and just sort of with a wry, deadpan sci-fi comic sensibility.
Not to mention the unavoidable cheeriness of recorded voices. Just no matter how bad things, the machine still has a smile. Yeah.
Yeah, Alexa's never gonna match your emotional pitch, no matter how upset I am. But I don't know. Hitchhikers is a tough comparison for me, because that to me is defined by how lively and populated the universe is in it, and
that's true.
This is very much the opposite of that.
I think what it was is they're literally clearing planets out of the way for a highway. I think
right.
That is okay. That's the connection for sure. That and the robot voice, like you said. That's. I mean, for me, the tough part about this movie is that it is. I guess it's intentionally about how space travel is boring, but the movie is also boring.
This is a problem. Yeah.
I don't have that problem. I don't find it boring. I mean, at the minute the guy says we've lost our entire supply of toilet paper, I mean that's the tone.
I think there is a really good 45-minute movie here.
It's funny, but it's not a knee slapper exactly.
The thing is, the 45-minute version doesn't have the alien.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Get rid of the alien.
Well, the alien is padding. The stuff of them hanging out in the bunks is padding. I would keep the alien, because without the alien, you don't get Alien.
I
love the alien.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous, and the minute you see it, it's just absurd, and with its
right.
claws.
But I mean, are we saying this movie is a good movie because it is entertaining to watch, or that this movie is a more than fair price to pay to get to Alien and the Thing?
I think it's an entertaining movie to watch. I mean, I love the alien when it eats the rubber mouse, idiot, and just of course.
Yeah. All right. So the alien. I mean, I think we should. I don't think everyone's seen Dark Star. So
should we go through the plot chronologically,
such as it is? Yeah. Sure. Okay. Yeah.
We start with the clean scrubbed, unaffected official delivering a message from Earth, saying,
"I like that monologue."
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
The flags were at half mast. Just all the fake piety and all the just stem boilerplate motivational phrases and things. Keep up the good work, guys.
Yeah, the flags are at half mast because they lost their commander of their mission was killed, and so the guy, the cheery face of government liaison, is saying, the flags were at half mast. Also, your resupply has been canceled.
Right.
So no more toilet paper coming your way.
Yeah. Or radiation shields, I think. Was
yes, that's the other one. But the toilet paper thing is also a bigger indignity.
Yeah.
And we sure do respect and admire you guys, though, for doing what you're doing out there. That sort of thing. Yeah. It's good.
It's the classic. It's supporting the troops by, with a decal, but not body armor or
banana sticker,
or even just general competence, or here's what you're sending them to do.
Right. And it's 1970. The context is obvious. We're talking about Vietnam.
So there's that. So now we go to the spaceship, and there's basically 4 guys on the spaceship. You got the guy who's taken over command, and he doesn't Doolittle. Yes, he wants to do as little as possible. He doesn't really want to be in charge.
His name patch actually reads Doolittle. It's missing the I.
But you wonder, is that an intentional costuming thing of like, the radiation shields didn't come, but also they can't get their name patches resewn.
Name's too long.
Or just they had the budget for whatever jumpsuits they could get their hands on. And then you've got the Talby guy who pretty much spends all his time in the observation bubble on the outside of the ship, just kind of staring out at the stars, not interacting with the other people very much.
Interesting thing about Talby, that performance entirely redubbed. John Carpenter plays the role.
Right. The guy is I think he's Polish, and his accent was really strong, so he's entirely dubbed by John Carpenter.
I didn't even realize that. So Lieutenant Doolittle's thing, the new commander, is that he used to be a surfer. And so he has a little monologue trying to talk Talby into coming back in. They just kind of chat a bit, and he talks about how he misses surfing so much. He kind of wishes he just could have his surfboard on the ship, even if he couldn't actually use it, just
wax it once in a while.
Wax it once in a while, yeah.
That's kind of his story, yeah. He likes surfing.
Yep. Then there's Boiler, who is sort of, I don't know, what does he have a character?
He's basically just angry. He's basically
he's
just
the most deranged, maybe. I don't know.
I think Pinback's the most deranged, but
yeah.
Boiler is the one who's just like, I'm going to shoot a laser into this door.
Yeah,
I'm bored, true. So it's laser door time, and that's kind of, and he looks the most dangerous too. He's the heaviest one with the wildest hair and mustache.
Yes, he seems like the one who would be the threat, but Pinback is the more openly, he's doing the Buscemi space madness thing, a little more, where he's adopted an alien mascot for the ship, which is a big round beach ball with feet, and he does practical jokes.
And he's resigned himself to being called Pinback when that's not actually who he is, at least according to his log.
Yes.
Man, the practical jokes, a word on his idea of a practical joke is to just I'm going to put on a pair of googly-eyed glasses and just sort of invade your personal space. I'm just going to get in your face, and I have googly glasses on. And
I'm going to put a rubber chicken next to your head.
Yes. And they've been in space for 3 years in a studio apartment. They've seen the fucking rubber chicken and the googly asses at this point. They are not going to be surprised or amused by that. It's just sheer boredom and space madness.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
He's the liveliest, though. I mean, he is, as a character, he has the least to do on the ship, but also has the task of sort of carrying us through this very slow first hour by being the only person who's doing things. Even when it's like a 20-minute digression where he's chasing the little alien beach ball around the ship to no real plot end.
This is where the feature length becomes a problem, is the alien chase sequence. This just low energy Sylvester and Tweety routine.
But the alien's the one who messes up the laser.
Yeah, okay, I guess there's that. But things it's not like you really need that from a plot perspective, because it's already established that things are falling apart on this ship everywhere, and they don't have the resources to repair them. We didn't mention what their mission is, which we sort of did, I guess. No. They're going out looking for potentially habitable planets for humans, and then they go to that system, and sort of their job is to nuke anything that might threaten that habitable planet. If there's rogue planets or asteroids, I guess they have these special bombs that they've that can are planet killers.
Yeah.
So it's this incredibly destructive thing that they do in very blasé, resigned fashion.
And they all hate it. They all hate being in space. They're all miserable. A vaguely different version of hell for each of them. Sometimes it's being around these people, sometimes not being around people. And it just seems awful. The actual work seems awful. The leisure time seems awful.
Well, except for Talby.
Tommy has it the best.
Yeah.
He gets to look at space, and I wouldn't leave that bubble either if I were him. Especially not to go down to the control booth, which is this just claustrophobic hell of 70s sci-fi aesthetic. I mean, it just seems like the worst place in the world to work. And the controls are just beeping lights. It just beeps and boops, and they just push them at random intervals.
I like how intensely claustrophobic that control set is. I mean, they're just literally in each other's faces the whole time.
It has some interesting points as science fiction stuff. It's not that interesting to look at or to spend time there, extended periods of time there. What I would say, I do think there are good things about this movie, but they're really all confined to the last 20 minutes of this hour and 25-minute movie. That's when suddenly there's like, maybe not a whole movie's worth, but a good amount of ideas and like actual ticking clock sort of like thriller scenario, which, I guess part of the point of the movie, right, is about the boredom and all that. So the bulk of the movie, nothing happens, but then it all happens right at the end. And what happens there is kind of cool.
The ideas getting introduced are fun there. Bombs, the 2001 is, you can see the through line here, but it's a little, it doesn't have those aspirations. It's much dumber, right? It's more of a just, it's introducing the idea of psychology to an AI and, watching it try to puzzle out, philosophical questions about existence. I feel like that's been done in other things, I think Star Trek did that in, I don't know, like a third of the original series episode.
I don't think Kirk ever convinced a machine that it didn't exist.
It convinced it to kill itself, didn't it? It's like, well,
Kirk would tell a computer, give a computer an unsolvable logical problem or something. But phenomenology, existentialism, that's a nice wrinkle, and I can't think of another movie that quite does that. Especially to the point where the computer says, "Well, I can't trust any outside stimuli. I have only myself to rely on. I must be the only thing in the universe." And to take it that far.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess the thing we need to establish here is all the individual bombs have their own like AI system in them, and then the ship has its own like mother from Alien system, or HAL, I suppose, from 2001, that can converse with the individual bombs AI. So at different points during the movie, like this bomb number 20 keeps getting accidentally like armed and primed to drop, and then the mothership system has to like talk it back into going back and like say, this was a mistake, go back into your bay, and the bomb is getting like surlier about it each time,
because the bomb's entire purpose is to explode, and it wants to do that.
Yes.
I love just sort of the underlying joke at the heart of this too is like, why would you give an individual bomb AI?
Right.
Like, what purpose does that serve? Can't it just is it just better if the main control drops it? That seems like logical. I don't know what you gain by giving it self-awareness.
Yeah,
there's a bit of lore in that the bombs aren't technically bombs. They're supposed to be some sort of interstellar triggering device that causes a chain reaction in the planet. But we do still see it explode, so it's a bomb.
That went over my head, I'll tell you.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Okay, so when they have, as they're on their route to the new assignment, they go through an asteroid field electrical phenomena thing in space that damages them. Looks absolutely terrible, even by 1974 standards. Like this is a period. I mean, I guess 2001 had already come out, and that's probably the first time we were able to. Yeah, that's where like space looks good, kind of.
Right. First time ever.
This very much looks like original series Star Trek, which is little puppets on strings or wires.
I like the look of the storm. I like the radiating.
It looks like it's done on Atari.
And the ship design. Let's talk about the ship design, because there weren't any. Okay. There wasn't anything that looked like that on Star Trek. It's a modern, what we think of as modern spaceship design, with plausible mechanisms visible near the back and an aerodynamic shape that seems plausible. And then that's probably mostly coming from Ron Cobb, whose first real job in movies this is. He goes on to design several famous spaceships, like the drop ship from Aliens, the Nostromo from Alien, the time traveling DeLorean, the Gunstar from Last Starfighter. He also designs all of Conan the Barbarian. He's not just a sci-fi guy, but
those are pretty good designs.
The design of the ship is nice and solid, and doesn't feel whimsical at all.
Well, when it's moving through space, it looks like a model.
Stop. Yeah. Oh yeah. There are a couple of shots where it's just literally in front of a backdrop, and you see the reflections on the dome, which I think is a nice touch. But
I have to admit, the aesthetic of this film is. It's I think one of the things that holds me at arm's length is that it's not a pleasant film to look at.
It's a 16 millimeter blow up. It's never going to look,
of course,
great.
Of course, that is an aspect of it. There are design elements here that are interesting, impressive. I believe this is the first movie to ever have light speed travel,
the hyperspace, the streak effect. Yeah,
that's something. That's pretty cool.
It's significant.
Yeah, but it reminds me of the aesthetic of 60s, 70s T3K things. That are some people I'm sure find sort of a charm to that. I find it very difficult to watch, and it is a challenge to leave my phone on the side of the couch and not pick it up and screw with it when confronted by all these beeps and boops.
Yeah, see, I'm able to ignore the strings most of the time. I mean, I'm appreciating the artistry that's there. I'm accepting the technical limitations both of the time and of the budget.
You got
I don't know. I mean, I've talked to the kids today who can't even watch a black and white film, or can't deal with stop motion animation, or can't deal with animation. And anything that isn't absolutely photoreal just checks them out, and they can't get into character or story or anything. And I probably never understand that.
I mean, to some extent, that is, I think, true for anybody. There's always a bit of an adjustment to some of the older kind of media. And, I think probably when you watch a lot, and I think the three of us watch a lot of stuff, there is an adjustment to it, and maybe even an appreciation of it. This remains one of those things for me. I just can't get into this, the aesthetic of this. And actually, I think maybe bigger than the visuals is the audio. I don't think this movie sounds at all okay. It's just the quality of the recording is low for me. I mean, I was like 8 minutes in, I was like, okay, subtitles on. I want to hear what these guys are saying. And, Carpenter is a guy I kind of associate with having excellent sound. I think he's like one of his magic tricks, is that he's really, really good at the soundscape of his movies. I think that's true in his next movie.
Well, I love the sound effects. Yeah. I love the sound effects here. I love especially the failed bomb drop siren, which me and my brother would quote to each other all the time. Just the I mean, there's some very fun sounds in this movie, and of course, this is Carpenter composing the score right out the gate, and it's absolutely a Carpenter score.
I mean, I like Benson, Arizona a lot.
Yeah, which he wrote the music for, and I think the optical blow-up guy wrote the lyrics based on an actual trip he took where he broke down in Benson, Arizona. But a sound quality, I'm not a sound engineer. When it gets to high ends and low ends and dynamic ranges, I just don't know anything. But
neither do I. Really.
I love the choices. I love the blips and the weirdly, insolent computer noises that we get.
But I wouldn't say that the problem is with the score or the sound effects exactly. It's the sound mix, I guess would be the term. And because like I said, it's just the dialogue is sort of hard to decipher, and not in a deliberate artistic decision kind of way. It just sounds bad. And I think we talked about this before on here, but maybe it was off mic too, but how just sound is sort of the thing you can't fuck with, because no matter how good your movie looks, if the sound quality isn't good, it doesn't feel professional. It doesn't feel like a real movie, quote unquote.
It is what separates real movies from fake movies in a lot, like especially at this budget level. If you can make a movie like this sound good, I think that goes maybe farther than the look. And yet, again, like he does it in the next film. Like this is something he's great at generally.
Yeah, and sound design in sci-fi especially is a thing. That's what separates your Star Wars and your Terminators from, I guess, your Dark Stars. The other thing I was gonna say about the visual effects is, I don't think this is an absolute hard line or anything, but I think there is a line where it doesn't have to be photo real exactly, but there is definitely a line between asking yourself, or like, if I don't know how they did that, versus when I look at stuff in this, it's like, okay, yeah, I know how they did that. They spray painted a beach ball and put some duck flippers at the bottom of it. Like, that's all that is. And it's not like, with Harryhausen animation, like, I guess now I kind of know how stop motion animation works, but it doesn't look real, like photographic real, but it looks, I don't know, uncanny enough for like, it looks like a thing.
Harry hasn't shared a lot. There's still a bunch of secrets he took to his grave.
I would have it no other way.
Yeah.
Someone wants to uncover those secrets, they can fight through all of the skeletons that are guarding that grave. Anyhow, so I do think that's part of the jankiness of these effects is like, there's not only do they not look photoreal or like up to our 21st century CGI standards, because obviously, but in a lot of cases it's like, well, yeah, I can see, being able to see the wires means exactly what they're trying to do to quote unquote fool you. And I don't know, even in the original Terminator, some of those stop motion effects, it's not like obvious to me, like, oh, I can recognize the household objects that they spray painted to make that happen, which is what I get here.
There can be fun in that, and for a satirical comedy, I think it works. That it looks so lo-fi, and that there's charm in it. I mean, as with a lot of these kind of old, formative movies that we're talking about, things like Following, you're watching it because it's John Carpenter's first movie. I don't know that this thing really stands out if it isn't directed by a guy who makes some of the best horror films of all time. Does this movie blast into the 21st century without his name on it, or is it just sort of one of many pieces of ephemera?
It certainly wasn't seen widely until about 1980, after both Halloween and Alien had come out.
And that is, I think, the interest of it. Is that you're going to go see the formative thing that they did as they were working up to this. This thing.
I was probably 10 or 11 when I saw Dark Star, and I had definitely not seen Alien or Halloween.
Better for a kid than either of those, for sure.
Was it on TV, or did you get it from VHS?
I would have either seen it on TV or in repertory at the UC Theater in Berkeley. I can't remember now.
Okay, well, we should probably move on to the final bits here, because we spent an hour here with these guys just sort of dicking around, not doing much on the spaceship, including dicking around with the alien, which you would think the alien kind of turning on its keeper and having a chase throughout the ship where the guy's life is in danger would be the main like thriller engine of this plot, but it's not. It's Looney Tunes, like Goof 'em Ups.
It's vaudeville routines, and I mean, it is kind of this is where the alien is most apparent. I mean, it really is the blueprint for the Harry Dean Stanton death scene. It's just, what if it was a 25-minute desperate comedy bit that kind of just didn't end. I mean, there it is. Yeah, it's crazy.
The quote here is, O'Bannon and Carpenter went to a screening of Dark Star and found only like 6 people in the theater, and none of them were reacting the way they wanted to. And O'Bannon said, "Well, if I can't make them laugh, let me see if I can make them scream."
I guess he did.
Yeah. It's funny because it feels like a lot of comedy people, so even successful comedy people, do end up going into horror when they transferred like to the behind the camera stuff. I'm thinking of, recently Jordan Peele and the guy who made Barbarian was part of a sketch comedy troupe before that too.
I mean, it's not a big surprise, really. These are the two genres where that you engage with viscerally. You are scared or you cry, but it is sort of an unbidden just reaction. It's a response that I don't know. I guess that's probably true of anything that you're emotionally invested in. But at the same time, there is a a literal effect that horror and comedy inspire that is not there in any other genre. That it also sort of works if it's scary or if it's funny is I mean it's sort of separate than whether the movie even works, as a story. If those things succeed, the movie's a success.
And they're both almost like tricks in that you can do like a dad joke or a cat jump scare fake out where it's like the reaction is almost the same once it's you get an unbidden laugh or gasp and then a kind of all right, you got me, even though like I don't approve, but I didn't have any control of my reaction in that fleeting moment. So I mean there's probably more to the connection than that, but that's part of it anyway. So now as we get into the third act of this movie where 90% of the story takes place is what I feel like. They finally get to their destination. The ship's taking some more damage, so the bomb is being deployed by mistake again. And it's sort of a HAL 9000 2001 thing where they're going out there and trying to now Doolittle is trying to reason with the bomb because it won't we've cried wolf too many times.
Well, he's gone and talked to Commander Powell, and maybe we could address that a bit.
Oh, sure. Right.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's just another idea. Yeah. It's a dead guy.
3/4 of the way through this movie, it turns out he's not dead. He's in like suspended animation and like goo, sort of almost like a precog from Minority Report or something.
There's a lot of Philip K. Dick happening here. I think Dick actually has stories where people talk to the dead, and it's this sort of half dream remembered voice sort of a thing. So I think it's very definitely a lift from Dick. And
but also the strains of that sort of workplace comedy stuff is still in there because the groaning embryonic corpse thing is also a little disappointed that he came to ask for advice about the bomb and not just like to chat.
Right. That was the Dodgers doing.
Yeah. Right. No one ever comes to talk to me anymore, and I want to know how the Dodgers season's progressing.
Well, it's another thing that is sort of like the joke is they're in hell.
Right.
Like their existence is as a complete. They hate every second of it, and that's the gag. That's a lot of the jokes in this movie.
But even when they're communing with the dead, it's sort of like the dead is their coworker Milton,
right?
Yeah,
who is just kind of a drag to talk to.
He's not in the ground; he's just next door.
Right. So now we're going out there. He's in a spacesuit talking to the bomb, and presents it with that phenomenology thing that you said, and I definitely know
Cartesian logic.
How to say. Right. Basically telling the bomb, like, how do you know when you get in conflicting impulses or instructions about deploy and we're telling you not to deploy, like, how do you know it's real? All you have is the inputs of what you're told to do. And maybe none of that's real. And the bomb gets sort of confused by this and says, all right, I'm gonna have to think over this, because if there is no external reality to my intelligence, then I don't know whether I have proper instructions to carry out my commands or not. Right. So the bomb disarms, and it seems like, okay, we had a Star Trek solution to this. But now we're heading back to the ship, and they're shooting the laser in there again too, for reasons I'm now struggling to recall.
Well, Talby has been trying to fix the laser at the exact moment that they're trying to deploy the bomb, and that's why the launch malfunctions and the bomb doesn't drop.
And he gets shot out, and then
he gets shot out of an airlock into space. So now Talby's tumbling out there, like Sandra Bullock in Gravity or whatever, and so Doolittle's trying to chase him down to bring him back to the ship. Meanwhile, the bomb has decided that actually the logical conclusion of its existential crisis is that it can't trust any of its inputs. All that it knows it's real is its own self, because it thinks, therefore it is, and its only goal is to explode. So it doesn't make any sense to delay anything and should just explode, which it does, destroying the ship and dooming them all to die, which I think is a very funny way for like a Star Trek plot to end. Yes. Like of all the times that has worked out perfectly on Star Trek, I love that one of them was like, oh no, this intelligence that is different than human, like it's not just different than humanity. Yeah. But it's also like going to reach different conclusions than Kirk really wanted it to, because maybe like maybe Kirk can't actually manipulate alien godlike intelligences perfectly every time. So I kind of love that as a resolution to this. Also, it kills everybody in the end, which is good. I'm always for a movie that just kills everybody.
Not the last time Carpenter will do that. Yes.
No, and this is a strength of it. This is what makes this does feel like a Carpenter film and not just a Carpenter seed. Is that
we have two survivors who probably aren't going to make it, and he definitely does that ending again.
Yeah, no, I guess no spoilers for the rest of his movies, but there is a triptych of them that are known as the Apocalypse Trilogy. So he is, and he's a guy who just respects an ending, and like that. An ending should be big and put a final period on it. So killing everybody does that. And in this case, there's also the in addition to the thing of the Captain Kirk solution backfiring and killing two of the guys, the Talby floats off endlessly into space, but he sees in the distance the Phoenix comets, which he had talked about earlier as this
the Phoenix asteroid.
Yeah, this rainbow-colored meteor shower that just circles the entire universe at a trillion years per orbit. And so he is going to go. He is floating off to basically join that. He'll die long before he gets there, I'm sure, if you're taking this in any sort of literal fashion. And then Doolittle, the Malibu surfer, finds a piece of roughly surfboard-shaped space debris and decides to just surf it down into the atmosphere of the planet they were supposed to blow up, and
become a shooting star. Right?
Yeah, becomes a shooting star.
And both of those events, that entire finale is almost exactly the Ray Bradbury short story Kaleidoscope, which is I think written some 20 years earlier.
Oh, well.
Both those things together in that story?
Yeah. In Kaleidoscope, a ship explodes. Two astronauts are thrown in opposite directions. One gets swept away in a beautiful crystalline meteor shower, and the other one becomes a shooting star. It is exactly that ending.
That is literally the ending. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Did they? I'm trying to think of. Did they cite inspiration from Ray Bradbury or anything in this?
Not on screen. They've acknowledged it in interviews since. Just we totally pulled that.
Yeah, that's a lot more than Harlan Ellison's contribution to the Terminator.
Oh yeah.
Much. Yeah. It's way more.
But Harlan Ellison is Harlan Ellison, and Ray Bradbury is Ray Bradbury. So
and Terminator's Terminator, Dark Star's Dark Star too.
Yeah, what I mean is one of them liked to sue people, and the other one didn't much care.
No, there's also more of a reason to try and sue for your bite of the Terminator pie than there is of the Dark Star pie.
True.
Yeah,
the Dark Star chart, the Dark Star cookie. Yeah.
So that's it. Everybody dies. Get kind of two poetic deaths there, and two
anonymous ones,
darkly hilarious ones. I do think, again, the last 20 minutes of this movie, it feels more like a Carpenter movie. It feels like an actual movie, a story. It's just all confined to that last stretch.
Yeah, I'm a little burned out, and I really do think that the alien midsection that goes nowhere is the problem. Really.
Here's one more prop for the alien. The alien is performed by Nick Castle.
Oh, no shit.
Who
will go on to be the shape of Michael Myers and later direct The Last Starfighter.
That's great, actually. That's pretty fun. Okay.
I don't think I knew that. The Last Starfighter bit of trivia.
He directed The Last Starfighter with Ron Cobb doing spaceship design, and it all comes around.
Well, look, you can't be too mad at this movie. I mean, it's got all these aspects that ended up paying dividends later down the line, maybe, and cool little details like that. I'm learning that I didn't know about Castle. The Ray Bradbury thing's cool, and it's just full of stuff like that. And all the USC kind of film brats of this era were semi involved in this thing as well, just in passing. Tommy Lee Wallace, another big horror guy. Was kind of working second unit and it screams that kind of era, and you're never mistaking this for a major work. It always feels like what it is, this sort of expanded student film experience. And in that sense, well, like, okay, so I watched this for the first time about 6 months ago, and I was just like, wow, I didn't enjoy that at all. That was a bad movie. What a bad movie. And then, so I was kind of, we talked about this a little on the show. I was kind of, like, I don't know if I'm not too excited about Dark Star. And this time through, I was like, okay, I get it now. I get it a little. Yeah, I don't think it's great. I'm not even particularly good, but I was like, I understand this film's wavelength. I understand what they're doing, what they're going for, and it's kind of cool just in all the ways it is a product of these influences, and then leads ultimately down to the road to things like The Thing and Alien and etc. It's good that these people succeeded in the aftermath of it, and for that reason alone, I have a sort of a grudging respect for Dark Star now. And Benson, Arizona will get stuck.
I'll concede that I probably saw it at the exact right age.
10 seems like the wrong age to me, but you know better.
10 or 12, maybe 12.
I think for me, it gets saved a little bit because it is always better, I guess, to save your best stuff for the end.
Sure.
I mean, it's not. I guess it's not better in that it can make people quit before they get there.
Right.
But I didn't have that option for this. So, a movie that starts poorly and ends well is going to leaving the better taste in my mouth and a better positive impression than a movie that starts really well and peters off at the end. Even if maybe on balance, like more of that second movie is good, but it leaves me on the most disappointing note. Dark Star ends on its best note, I think, and also the note where I'm like, okay, so here's John Carpenter, and he's kind of arrived now. I'm looking forward to now going to a repertory revival showing of Assault from Precinct 13 next weekend.
Oh, really?
And yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah, nice. Perfect timing.
Kismet. Yeah, thanks. The Music Box theater in Chicago up the street from me is doing like a Carpenter series, and this week is Assault on Precinct 13.
Have you seen that one before, Al?
Yeah, 15 years ago, probably.
It rules. It's so good. It feels like the Terminator to this one's Piranha 2, which is kind of mean.
It's the full Carpenter. It's the Rio Bravo restage and everything that goes with it. Yeah,
it's fucking ball. Absolutely. This one has, I don't know, I don't know. It's fine. I already feel like I've given it enough praise for its relatively mild pleasures. I don't know. Does anyone have an MVP? I think Dan O'Bannon's pretty good in this.
O'Bannon is a lot of fun in this. I mean, for essentially a non-actor, he's really great. I mean, it also just shook out that he was the only person available to film for a lot of the reshoots.
I mean, that is the worst part of the movie, but I still don't mind.
But I love the diary entries. I love the progressions, the levels of madness in the diary entries.
They're kind of Jake Sully video logs.
That part actually feels kind of ahead of its time, in that it's sort of doing the mockumentary format. About bit, 20 years before that was popularized. I guess Spinal Tap did it 10 years later, so that maybe that's when that format has arrived. But you get a little bit of that in here, and it's surprising for as much as that is a non-actor, how much of the movie he has to carry kind of solely on the weight of his own comedic charisma, playing off either nobody or a beach ball.
Yeah.
Yep. And it's effective. And I love the logs where all he's doing in those video logs is bitching about his coworkers. Like every single one is just like, these people don't appreciate my finer qualities. They are uncouth. And just over and over. It just sort of gets worse and worse over the years of doing this. That's where the movie's most successfully a comedy, I think, is in Pinback stuff, and I guess also least successfully a comedy when he's doing elevator bits. But still, it's not nothing. And aside from John Carpenter's vocal performance, probably the most notable performance in the movie, I guess.
It is, yeah. Not the highest of praise.
No,
I mean, it does. It almost raises the question of how much better could this movie have been if you got an actual comedy actor to be the comedic lead of this film.
I mean,
but who knows?
That might be a fun thing. Take the final script and say, all right, produce this, shoot it, make it over today. But
Yeah, I mean, they've remade almost, it seems like all the other John Carpenter movies.
Why not?
So when they get down to Dark Star, I do think it would be interesting to see what happens if, you put Jonah Hill in that role or something.
All right. Okay. Collectively, let's get 4 actors to do Dark Star 2023. Jonah Hill's a good call. That's a good one.
See, Jonah Hill. I'd see Jonah Hill as Boiler because he's got the anger. You need to develop more character for him, though.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. He could be Pinback. I do think that, you probably just want to pull off of, Apatow improv school. Just get 4 of those guys is probably your best bet, honestly. Work well together.
Put Paul Rudd in the dome. Paul Rudd can be the spacey one.
Yeah.
I'm going to say maybe Richard Ayoade in the dome as the sort of spacey one.
I see that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. There's definitely. I mean, there's this sort of improvisational feel, I guess, is not exclusive to Apatow. Yeah, there's an entire British industry of sitcom guys who would probably be good at this. Any of the Armand Iannucci guys. I mean, isn't that kind of what Avenue 6 is? Or the Hugh Laurie show?
The guys who made Red Dwarf have gone on record saying they were absolutely inspired by Dark Star.
Oh God! Look at this thing.
Did. Yeah, they did the British version of this.
Shit! How about that?
Yeah, Avenue 5 is a lot of this too, except it's got a much bigger cast that it can play around with more. I mean, I guess Doolittle and Boyer have such little character that I'm like, it doesn't matter. I mean, I guess that's Seth Rogen and whoever.
Baruchel, that guy, bring him back. Yeah, okay, sure. It doesn't matter. Just a comedy team.
The thing that's important to me,
Adam Devine would be
if you're going to do this. Yeah, Adam Devine would be great, fine as Boulder too, probably. But the only really important thing is just get Matt Berry to do the voice of the bomb.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. Oh well. So I've come across. I don't know. I feel like my respect for this thing has grown as we've spoken about it. It grew. Rewatching it, maybe this is a significant movie. I don't know. It's
well, you go in with expectations of horror and paranoia and claustrophobia, and you get one of those.
But I mean, I think maybe the expectation of just like I'm watching formative Carpenter, coming in, maybe isn't great. It's the only thing that gets you in the door on this movie, maybe. But like, I don't know. Now that I know what it is, I'm kind of like, well, yeah, the good parts.
Even when you read the plot summary, though, you still have those expectations because the plot summary reads like, "Oh, this is Alien and Sunshine combined," and those were two very intense space movies.
And then Pinback.
It's not that
the character, the bad guy in Sunshine is named Pinback. That's nuts.
Well, he's named Pinbacker in Sunshine, but it's Pinback here.
It's definitely a reference. It's definitely.
I was definitely wondering about that. Yeah.
Crazy. I mean, one thing that I wanted to point out is that this movie doesn't really have a villain. And actually, a lot of Carpenter movies don't necessarily have villains. They have faceless menaces. But there are very few that actually have an antagonist.
That's true. Even the bomb is not a villain.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah, he's got his reasons. He's got his purpose. He's got his directives.
And he's got the pleasant robotic voice, so he's not mad at anybody about this. I mean, I guess he's a little,
the alien's just an
put
asshole.
out by the false alarm.
Right.
Yeah, the alien's a prick, but it doesn't...
It's just Alien.
Yeah. Also, it's like it's been kidnapped and forced into, I don't know, servitude isn't the right word because it's not being put to work.
But it's like a pet. It's like a... Yeah. That is another funny Dan O'Bannon bit is where it's, God, I thought this would be funny. I thought I'd enjoy this. Now it's just a pain in the ass taking care of the alien. That's all good.
I love the absurdity, and again, this may be a low budget moment, but I love when he's swatting the alien with the broom, and then somehow we don't see because it's off screen. The alien has grabbed the broom and is swatting him back.
Yeah, it's Looney Tunes stuff, and we'll get into that as we go on. John Carpenter does have a fairly juvenile sense of humor that is going to rear its head as we go forward.
I don't think he gets this silly again until Big Trouble.
Yeah, Big Trouble and They Live are very silly, though.
Yeah, in the best way. Oh, God. Okay.
All right, we're talking about all the other movies we like better now, so it's time to wrap up.
All right.
This is, it's a necessary stepping stone to get us to some pretty high highs that we were heading towards. So we are going to commend it on that level at the very least.
Yeah. Everyone's got one of these at the front of their career. I think everyone we've talked about certainly has.
Tarantino came out the gate with Reservoir Dogs, which is pretty fully formed. Everybody else that we've done has got this this learning step.
Yeah, not uncommon. All right, but next one is Assault on Precinct 13, a terrific film. What are your thoughts on that one, Dor?
Oh, I love it. I mean, it's nasty as hell, but it's super tense. Again, faceless menace. No particular villain. Even the most evil guy in the movie is one of the heroes. He has his moments.
It's a high bar for the most evil character in that movie, man. I don't know.
There's... Well, we're going to get into that movie, but I do wonder if it's the nastiness of that movie is a reflection of Carpenter looking back on this movie once it was done and deciding that we should have committed more to maybe to either comedy or nastiness, and he leaned towards the nastiness of it.
I mean, I know that,
not an unfunny movie either.
Yeah, but it's definitely the full-fledged Carpenter from that point on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which is good. I'm looking forward to it. So thanks, Tor. We'll be back soon with Assault on Precinct 13.
Thank you.
Thank you.